never a doubt that we would be back. We've got a new season, we've got a new coach, we've got a new system. I'm Kelly Hunter, and to my right, your left, is the voice of Alabama Crimson Tide football, Chris Stewart, and this is Respect the Process. How are you?
It is indeed. I'm great. It's good to see you again.
Good to see you too.
Thankful to everybody at Double Down that's given us an opportunity to do this again, but also to you who really does all the work. And I just sit here and try not to mess things up.
Nope, but we got a lot to get into, so we're going to jump right in. Week 1, an impressive win over Western Kentucky.
It was.
Alabama moves up to number 4. And, I don't think true fans ever wavered after what felt like a seismic shift back in January. Sure. But it feels like Alabama got it right with Kalen DeBoer.
Yeah, I would agree. Look, everything that I've encountered with him, he's fantastic. Mm-hmm. Everything. And I'd said all along, we know what matters most is winning and losing. But there are things that are important until we get there. And he won all of that. One thing that helped him was, in my opinion, Nate Oates. Basketball took up all of the attention during spring practice until A-Day. I mean, I literally didn't see the team go through one practice in spring until the A-Day game itself, because I was gone for 19 out of 21 days with basketball in a row. So instead of everything by everybody being under the microscope, you know, they were paying attention to spring football, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't quite the same microscope it would have been otherwise. So you saw the team and you saw some good, some bad, typical from spring football. But everything after that, the speaking circuit, the recruiting trail, handling the portal, NIL, all of the stuff involved, great job and was received well. Then they got to see the team, and it's 63-0. Hard to argue about. I know it was Western Kentucky. It wasn't the University of Kentucky. It was not any of the teams that we will see coming up. But it was who they faced. They took care of business as they should have, and that was a great start.
One thing that a lot of people are focusing on, and not necessarily in this state, but this is an unprecedented transition from Nick Saban to Kalen DeBoer. And detractors want to make more of this of, look at the difference in the offices, look at the difference in the personalities. But the bottom line is, it's working, and there's more than one way to skin a cat, which is a terrible saying. But
if you're a cat, yes.
Yeah, but it works. This works.
It has worked. And again, we're talking about one week as a sample size on the field. Here's why I haven't been concerned about it. Everybody correlates it to maybe the departure of Coach Bryant and then his passing, which I still think played a major role in the inability for Ray Perkins to.
That was a different situation entirely.
It was a different era, different time. The other thing that's very different is the program had dropped off from the standard that Coach Bryant had.
Right.
So Ray Perkins had a very difficult time. Coach Bryant's death, he didn't have Coach Bryant there to back and support him, so to speak. This team played in the national championship playoff, not in the game, but the playoff, and was a minute away from the title game last year, talking about Alabama.
Well, Saban didn't leave the cupboard bare.
He did not.
No.
He did not. The man that followed Nick Saban coached in the national championship game last year. So there was a lot that this position still has going for it.
Would you say how many I said maybe 65% of the roster was Saban still.
I think it's probably more than that.
Okay.
I don't know the exact
I was just kind of ballparking it this morning.
You're not terribly far off with that.
But I just thought he still has a vested interest. I mean, not only in this team, this program, the city, the university, everything.
Here's part of why it's all been managed so well. Greg Byrne, Kalen DeBoer, and Nick Saban have all handled this incredibly well. Greg Byrne made sure that Nick Saban knew he still had a role with this program in whatever capacity he wanted to. So he's got an office on campus. He still has a job. He's still an ambassador.
He still has his
whatever
boxes
that
we've seen.
looks like. He does indeed. So he is welcome any and every day that he wants to be on that campus. Kalen DeBoer made sure he knew you are welcome anytime. At the same time, Coach Saban is secure enough in his own skin and is respectful enough. He doesn't have to hang around and be there every day.
Right.
I think he would show up in a minute if Kalen DeBoer said, I need you or I want you here for this. The fact that, and I haven't been told this by Greg Byrne. I don't know. I will ask Greg at some point. But to me, week 2 initially sounds a little odd for Saban Field at Bryant-Denny Stadium to become the new name. Mm-hmm. But I have no doubt in my mind this was Coach Saban going, I don't want to intrude on the debut for Coach DeBoer.
Yep.
I also don't want to be a distraction for the Georgia game. So it's a night game. I can do my job with ESPN, and as he showed last week, he can get to Tuscaloosa in plenty of time. So that is all the plan for South Florida. He's going to be there. It's a night game. He'll be where he needs to be for the pregame ceremony outside the stadium, for the ceremony at halftime inside Saban Field at Bryant-Denny, as I'm getting myself practicing saying that.
And will you be a part of this on Saturday? Very nice.
I have a role that is still TBD, but I know that I've been told be prepared to basically MC the ceremony outside the stadium, and then at halftime.
Have you slipped up yet and said Saban instead of DeBoer at any point?
No, but you've just guaranteed that I will.
I was impressed. I was watching the coaches show this weekend, and I was like, I'm impressed.
First of all, we would have cut that out. But at the same time, I've worked very hard. It'll happen at some point. Coach DeBoer, I don't think will be offended. That's a lot.
That's a hard habit to break.
It's an awful lot.
Okay, we're going to look back at the Hilltoppers real quick. How much of the playbook do you think we actually saw?
Very little, which I think should be frightening for opposing defenses because, again, at 63, going somewhat vanilla.
Yeah.
There's some base stuff, some base look things that we're going to see going forward. But there are absolutely wrinkles that you didn't see this week. You won't see against South Florida. You may not even see against Wisconsin that Georgia will see. But there's also wrinkles that we won't see against Georgia that we will against Auburn and beyond, whatever beyond looks like.
I enjoyed watching him break down that offensive play. It was the Ryan Williams touchdown where he showed Jalen on the check down, and then you saw the separation. Ryan Williams, who went from a teenager to a man on Saturday night. That was an impressive execution by a 17-year-old.
No doubt. Ryan Williams showing that he's comfortable not just wearing an Alabama uniform, but wearing the number of one of the most explosive, dynamic playmakers in school history in David Palmer. You're also, I thought,
because he earned Freshman of the Week honors, if I'm not mistaken.
Freshman of the Week
for the SEC.
And earned it. It's pretty good. 2 catches in your Freshman of the Week. But again, earned it because the first busted coverage and he's got blazing speed. Good catch. Okay. Nothing really fancy. I thought the other grab where he ran through 2 tackles was more impressive. Here's one of the things that I really wanted to see and I found as impressive as anything from Kalen DeBoer. I wanted to see what he looked like on the video board because Coach Saban was maybe more comfortable than any point I dealt with him over the course of a week when he would go to that video board post-game, draw up the play, design it, show us. Okay, is it a little different with Coach DeBoer? Yes, but I wondered if he would do something really quick and it would be done. And instead, man, he laid it out.
He talked you through it.
From his perspective, talked you through it. It was really cool. I think that is going to be as entertaining for the fans as they get used to it as it was watching Coach Saban draw that play up each week.
I'm only the idea person. I'm not good at execution, but there is a T-shirt or marketing campaign for Justice and Jam.
Justice and Jam.
I don't know.
I like that.
I don't know quite what it is, but speaking of the two, an impressive running game, and the offensive line looked good with Elijah Pritchett stepping in last minute and playing extremely well.
So, you know that my parents were
Justice and Jam?
good. They were not Justice and Jam. There is a tie to them, though.
Okay.
My parents were 40 and 37 when they had me. My mother died at the age of 55, but my dad lived to be 91. Dad loved music. Dad used to talk about old songs. And one song that he used to always talk about was this song from the 40s, I think. It's got to be jelly because jam don't shake that way. And I wish that we had jelly and jam.
That would be even better.
In the backfield.
I know.
But Justice and Jam will find a way to get it to work. Bama's very much loaded in the backfield again.
Yeah.
The top two guys could play anywhere in the country. The guys that we saw behind them are going to be fun to watch as they grow and develop as well. But that running back situation is very good, and it's going to help take pressure off the passing game where you can't just focus on that. Bama's going to move the ball. Bama's going to score points. The exciting thing for me was that the defense looked better than we anticipated. Again, not getting ahead of myself. It's Western Kentucky. But T.J. Finley's been in 2 SEC lineups, locker rooms, and they shut him down pretty effectively.
And I know that obviously Jalen Milroe is our quarterback, and he's not a sleeper for us.
No.
But is this the opening act for his Heisman campaign?
For this year, yes, because what he did on the back half of last year, getting to going from being the guy losing the starting job to being the guy that many people thought should have been invited to New York. Not saying winning it necessarily, but they thought he would be on the list of invitees. He's clearly in that conversation, that mix, and should be. Not because of what he did last year, but because of how he looked on Saturday and what we know he is capable of because of what happened a year ago.
Well, and a lot of what we were able to see, it was a game against Western Kentucky, as we keep saying. But we got to see some things being executed that I'm sure that they have been obviously doing against each other. But to see them playing with tempo was something that was interesting and that you could see them adjusting to in a game setting.
I was concerned in the first half, especially I think early second quarter when there were about 4 penalties over a span of 7 or 8 plays.
I think there were 5 penalties in the first 12 minutes of the game.
May have been. But I'm looking at the
I had
trying to
jotted it down on my notes at some
you
point.
got it. The penalties, they ended up 7 for 59 yards.
Which wasn't so bad.
That
but
means 1 in the second half.
Yeah.
And 1 maybe in the last 2.5 quarters.
Yeah.
So that to me is very encouraging. They got some things figured out. Only 7 penalties after 6 early, 600 yards of total offense. You only give up 248 total, I think, or less than that, 145 total actually. You're in this team's in a good spot through week 1. Can they stay engaged, get that done in week 2, and then the real tests begin obviously when you go to Wisconsin.
Defense was able to get a lot of bodies on the field, which is going to be important with the speed that they play and they execute. And I know Coach Womack calls it swarming, but it's almost headhunting because these guys had their man, they had the ball, they were there, and this is an entertaining defense to watch.
It is.
Not just effective, entertaining as well.
No, there are so many new faces,
Yeah.
and there was natural concern over what you're going to have in the secondary. But as you watch this group play, and
I'm putting my phone on silent. I just realized my phone's on
that's
silent.
all right.
Okay,
It's not a
you
problem. I'm
cover
about to
for
get
me.
up and
Thank
resume
Okay,
my
there we
tradition
go.
of getting something
Yeah,
to drink
help
here
yourself.
in the middle of the show.
The server usually comes by, but I think they're busy.
They are busy.
It happens.
The secondary, when you've got a veteran like Damani Jackson from Southern Cal, Keon Sabb is
he
a
was good.
third-year guy. He was really good. Malachi, we know, is one of the best in the country. Devontae Smith is, no longer. I think we all go, he's back. It's not that Devontae Smith, but it's the one we knew was going to be in the secondary. There are a lot of guys back there that are going to help this team look really good on the back half. Red Morgan made a couple of plays.
Well, and it's not just linebackers making tackles.
No,
you've
right.
got everybody out there.
You
They've
do.
got their man and they've got the ball.
Well, it's different also in terms of what is asked or when it's being told what they're going to do. Kirby Smart's one of the best one of the best football minds in the country. Obviously, 2 rings as a head coach, multiple rings as a coordinator. We know that. But if there was a criticism of things that happened under him as defensive coordinator at Alabama, and at times, once he left Tuscaloosa, it was the fact that you would often see the defense as the ball's being snapped, still looking to the sideline, trying to make sure the perfect defense was called. Mm-hmm. That's not as much of an issue with this group. They're going to trust their athletes to go make plays. And again, like everything else we talk about with present as opposed to the past, doesn't mean one was wrong and one's right. It's just different. And I think are you going to see mistakes? Of course, because you always have mistakes.
Right.
How many times did Alabama get cut up like a hot knife through butter on the first drive of the game from an opposing team that had some skill?
Oh, yeah.
How many times did I hear Nick Saban say, well, on the first drive, they showed us stuff that we didn't have on film? Now, that still can hurt you, but it's not going to hurt you, I don't think, at the level it did in the past, because the defense isn't asked to look to the sideline as much. Get your base defense, get it called. We've trained you. Go read and react.
But I think that you say that, and that's really interesting, because I feel like that's Kalen DeBoer's working model of he trusts everyone to do their job, from his general manager to offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator. I've hired you because you're really good at your job. And I'm the head coach, and I'm going to oversee everything. But that trickles down to the players of, we brought you here because you're a good athlete, and we trust you to do the job that we've trained you to do.
We trust ourselves and what we've taught you, and we do trust you to do it. I couldn't agree with you more.
Okay.
I'm still listening.
That's okay. Finally, a fellow Miami University alumni, Lou Groza Award winner, Graham Nicholson, seamlessly took over for Will Riker. Did you get an Oreo-flavored Coke Zero?
Sorry.
They have an Oreo-flavored. I saw that earlier.
I was going for the classic, as I've always done for years, because it's my favorite. In Oreo
flavored. We're going to find this out. But anyway, so my fellow Miami University alumni, Graham Nicholson, took over seamlessly. He was not asked to go out there and kick a field goal of any sort.
Oh, my goodness. Really good.
Okay.
Really
See?
good.
A review and a game summary.
Yes, we have a winner. Either that or I'm having another stroke. Go ahead.
No, but I'm not going to say that we miss Will Riker, because I think he was there as long as Saban was there.
Yes.
But in a critical area,
Coach Bryant.
a critical area of the game that is, again, something new.
And there was nothing wrong.
No.
Nealon Hibbett as your snapper, James Burnup again as the holder, who did a great job punting the ball again. A few times he had to. And you're right. Graham's good. Connor Talty's good. Connor handled kickoffs and was really good. And then he got some of the placement opportunities. Depth, talent, special teams, as well as offense and defense we're seeing now. It's why, and again, I know we're a long way from the finish line.
Week one. We know.
But it's why I said all summer, don't sit here and think that this team is dropping off, or this program's dropping off, just because Nick Saban is gone.
Right.
This is still Alabama. Alabama's usually great until they're not. Mm-hmm. So assume Alabama's going to be great until they show you something else.
Right.
Don't assume that it's going to be average just because there's a new coach, new staff. This is a roster that most teams in the country would love to have. This is a roster that is going to compete not only for the SEC, but the national title as well.
Okay, we're looking ahead now to South Florida, coming into Bryant-Denny. Mm-hmm. It's Jalen Milrow's first look at South Florida, because I
that's
think
exactly right.
Last year he did not get an opportunity to go on the field against South Florida.
Circumstances are very different from last year's matchup. And look, I'm not taking a thing away from South Florida. Played their tails off in front of the home crowd, getting the University of Alabama to play in Tampa. It was a big deal for them. Bama was definitely trying to figure things out, still reeling from a loss to Texas. But you're right. And I'm not saying that this will be what the Western Kentucky game was. I think it's going to look more like the Western Kentucky matchup than it did last year's South Florida game.
Well, and
it does.
I hesitate to call it a reckoning, but I like DeBoer's slogan of respect all, fear none.
Yeah.
And I think that is an excellent approach to any non-conference opponent, as well as when you're facing a Georgia or the likes of anyone.
They know who they are. They're learning who they are, but they like what they've seen so far. And I don't think there are as many question marks. And this is one of those games that in most years, again, reputable team, reputable program, reputable matchup. But Alabama will look in this game, I think, like Alabama should look and most of the country expects you to look. Could be totally fooled, but despite the fact they got off to a really good start, 48-3, I believe it was, against Bethune-Cookman. They won their game as they should have won it. They did play Alabama really well last year. I just don't think circumstances are going to lend itself to
monsoons.
To monsoons that call. Hopefully not. Weather's actually supposed to be pretty nice. And with it being the day that you name the stadium after Nick Saban, the field after Nick Saban.
I still voted for state. I think we can go back to last year on that.
That's
but
right.
Go ahead.
But to have that special of a day historically, so many of his guys still there, and the fact that I just think Alabama's that much better than South Florida. I think it's going to be a really good day in Tuscaloosa.
It really is remarkable. Just the entire, the vibe, the atmosphere, it feels so much lighter, better. And I think it also has to do with the fact that we watched Nick Saban have so much fun this past Saturday.
Yeah.
With everything that he did between College Game Day, the commercials we've seen him on, as well as being in the stadium that evening to watch Alabama play Western Kentucky.
His Verbo ad
those are great.
Is as good as those Regions ads were initially, and as good as any of the other stuff he's been doing.
I'd rather see him do that. Nothing against Aflac, but I like the Verbo ads better.
Oh,
they're very clever, and I'm glad he was not taking himself too seriously.
You know, the punchline is always going to be the Ducks on the Aflac deal. We get that, but the Verbo's hilarious because you can see that really being him.
Yeah.
The fact. Did you see the selfie he took with the rest of his game day crew? Just little stuff like that. And look, it does my heart good seeing him enjoy that.
And my kids were asking me, we were watching the game, they're like, do you think he misses? I said, I guarantee he misses the camaraderie. I'm sure he misses a lot of the elements of the game. But I also think that what we've seen since January, he is enjoying his life as well.
When the chaos that is game day is its most chaotic at the end of the show, when Lee Corso, God love him, is wearing a frickin' leprechaun outfit next to the Notre Dame leprechaun, you've got the other guy, the crazy guy.
McAfee with his shirt off.
McAfee being McAfee. You got all that going. And Reese Davis knows Coach about as well as any of us. Mm-hmm. And he's sitting there, he's almost grabbing his arm like, are you worried about what you've gotten into?
Are you coming back next week?
Yeah, are you coming back next week? And Coach genuinely is grinning going, this is so much fun.
Is this what y'all been doing all these years?
He wouldn't say that if he didn't mean it.
No.
And I know friends of his, very close friends of his, that have admitted that Coach has even gone, I'm not second guessing what I did for so many years, but I didn't know what I was missing out on. And thank God he did things the way he did, because you got to do them your way. It's why Kalen DeBoer is going to be successful. Yeah. He's not trying to do it Nick Saban's way. He's going to do it the way he's done it, which has allowed him to get the job at the University of Alabama.
And I love that we still were able to get his hubris when talking about the $20 million roster that Ohio State has. And he says, you better be sure what kind of shit you're getting for that $20 million.
You're going to be...
It's good stuff.
SOL, as he put it, which was Nick Saban to the bone.
I will say that my computer keeps autocorrecting Kalen to Karen, so it will get used to that.
He ain't a Karen.
No, we got 6 o'clock kickoff on ESPN against South Florida this Saturday night. We can expect you on the call when listening on the radio or online, because I also do that.
Thank you.
And if you're looking for more of Chris Stewart, you can always find him at Chris Stewart online.
Chris, it's changed. I'm sorry.
Damn it.
You were doing so well. You ready?
Yes.
Chris Stewart .online. It's a new website. My boy Philip Pritchard at Video Visions has changed it.
Okay.
It's easier. It's more of the bio stuff. We have added some new pictures, some new photos from the to the website.
All right.
And there will be more added after this weekend.
Okay. That's awesome. So ChrisStewart.online.
We're done?
Oh, we're getting. I know.
Fast.
I
love it. I just missed you, and everything's...
We can talk after.
Okay.
But we got a big thanks for Scott Forrester for always
yeah.
kind of polishing this turd up to a high shine for us.
Wow.
And Tim Melton for his
Wow.
honesty and his friendship and his advice. Reed Taylor for unlocking the doors and letting us back in. Be sure to check out everything on Disrupt Media platform. Of course, the Mothership Next Round, which you can catch every day and on demand, and Cover Crimson for all of your Alabama needs. I'm Kelly Hunter, and he is Chris Stewart still. We thank you for your time.
Absolutely.
For your review on the Coke Zero Oreo.
Roll Coke Zero Oreo and Roll Tide.
I was going to say, give them what they came for. Just a clean one.
Excuse me?
Yeah, come on.
Roll Tide.
Thanks, guys. We'll see y'all next week. Take care.